Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm here right now with my friend AJ Dunn, and we are going to be talking about travel hacking and how you can travel to Brazil or anywhere else for pennies on the dollar. So I am here in Bulgaria right now. AJ, where are you at?
I'm in Detroit, Michigan right now, downtown.
Have you been there for very long?
Moved here in January, but I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Detroit since I've moved here. I was in Mexico. I was in Puerto Rico. I went down to Brazil for Carnival. Came back to do a little bit of work in the city. Then headed to Argentina before I went to the World Cup in Brazil. Um, Now I'm back in Detroit, and I'll actually be leaving on another trip pretty soon in October.
So you're traveling again to Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm going to stop over in Europe on my way to Bangkok for a conference.
Okay, so you're gonna be in four continents this year. How many countries will that have been by the end of the year?
Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Thailand, Vietnam, maybe Indonesia. I mean, I lost count. That's maybe
That's yeah, like
nine.
10 or something like that. So it's a fair amount of countries. You must be a millionaire to be doing all this traveling, right?
Contrary to I am not a millionaire. I am an entrepreneur that makes a little bit of money, but not nearly enough to be living the jet set lifestyle. I leverage frequent flyer miles and use them in really creative and smart ways to get where I want to go.
Yeah, so explain that a bit. What is travel hacking and how can people do that too?
Yeah, but simply, so travel hacking has kind of made its way to the mainstream. It was lesser known for a long time. It's pretty much taking advantage of bonuses of frequent flyer miles that banks issue out, and then finding either loopholes or really intelligent ways to use the miles. You can think of travel hacking as two ways. You got to earn the miles because that's what you use. That's your currency to book a flight, and then you got to actually redeem a flight and use those miles. So you got to earn miles and you got to redeem them, and it can be a little bit complicated. But that's essentially travel hacking in a nutshell.
Okay, so you're basically talking about just spending a bunch of money on your credit cards and getting these points, right?
Absolutely not. No, you do need to spend a little bit, and I mean a little bit. Um, just to give you an example, here's how it typically works. How you really get huge wins in travel hacking is sign-up bonuses. So the banks, being greedy like they are, want to issue out all these credit cards and have people run up big balances and pay interest so they make money. So what they do to entice people to sign up for credit cards is they offer, say, 30, 40, or 50, or even sometimes a couple times a year, 100,000 frequent flyer miles to sign up for a credit card. So there's some terms where you have to meet what's called the minimum spend, and that's anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 in 3 months. So when you think about it, getting one of these bonuses isn't unattainable if you do some spending on a credit card or if you've got business expenses. You can get a bonus without even spending $1,000 a month on a credit card.
So you're basically signing up for the credit card, spending $1,000 or whatever the minimum spending requirement is, and then you get all these miles.
Yeah, you get the bonus. Now you do get miles when you spend money, so it becomes a bit more nuanced and more advanced. Once you've been doing travel hacking for a while, you'll really be optimizing the way you spend money. But in the beginning stages, yeah, it's just you pick the good cards that offer really good bonuses based on where you want to go, and you don't change your spending at all. You're not going out and going to expensive dinners just running your credit card for the sake of earning miles. You just do your regular spending on the right credit card, and then you get the bonus that ultimately, if you're creative or do some research, you can book a flight with.
Okay, so you're talking about signing up for a bunch of different credit cards. Isn't that bad for my credit?
That's actually a big misconception. That's something that Eric, my business partner, and I talk with about people all the time when they ask us about travel hacking. Travel hacking isn't bad for your credit if you do it right. There's some really key things you need to do. The most important things you need to do are not get carried away with how many credit cards you sign up for. If you go crazy and sign up for like 6, 7, or 8 cards, that makes you look like a very high risk borrower to the banks. Who needs 8 credit cards all at once? And the next thing that you need to do if you're going to apply for cards, let's say you apply for 2 to 4. That's a pretty modest range in the travel hacking world, considering protecting your credit.
2 to 4 all at once, or?
It's 2 to 4 at once, but here's the key. This is the second point is applying for those credit cards. Let's say you apply for 2, 3, or 4, pick the number. Doing those on the exact same day matters because the way that the credit bureaus work and the reporting, new card applications are only reported once a day. So if you sign up for 3 cards on the same day, it'll affect your credit as though you only applied for 1 card. It'll be one hard pull is the terminology for that. And there might be a very, very small brief hit to your credit. We're talking a few points. But actually what signing up for more cards does, if you use them in a responsible manner, is it creates your credit to debt ratio. It lowers your utilization. Those are things that weigh in on your credit score. So line of credit and you spend $5,000 a month, your utilization is 50%. If you get another $10,000 line of credit, your utilization gets cut down to 25%, and that helps your credit.
So you might actually improve your credit by signing up for all these credit cards.
Yeah, since Eric and I started our travel hacking company, we see steady and modest growth in credit. And another thing too, and this is a little bit unrelated, we really keep an eye on our clients' credit. And there's been a lot of clients that have come to us and said, man, I didn't know that I had a bill in collections. I thought that was settled. So if you're good at travel hacking, you should be aware of your credit. So that in itself is a good thing for your credit. But the getting extended lines of credit and improving your credit utilization ratio, that kind of stuff actually does help your credit.
Okay, so can you give me a specific example of a credit card that I can sign up for, the minimum spending requirement that I have to meet, the amount of miles it'll give me, and what I can do with those miles?
Yeah, off the top of my head right now, this isn't the best offer right now, but this is just a pretty easy example. It's a card that it's a United card. You gain United Mileage Plus miles. The bonus is $30,000 for when you spend $1,000.
30,000 miles.
Did I say $30,000?
You did, yeah.
Okay, so it's not that lucrative. But you get 30,000 United miles if you spend $1,000 on that card within 3 months. And with that card, you can be with those miles, you can be pretty creative. I mean, you could, say, book a flight from Detroit, is where I live, from Detroit to Colombia. You could go to Mexico. You could get a one-way flight from Detroit to Paris. So the miles are pretty powerful if you use them properly.
Okay, so what is the fastest way that you can get a bunch of miles?
The fastest way to load up on miles is to do what's called credit card churning. That's the applying for 2, 3, or 4 credit cards on the same day. And then now you're looking at 3 different bonuses. So you could sign up for, a Chase card that gives you Chase points. You could sign up for an American Airlines card and the United card, whatever. Pick your poison. You want to be smart about it, but it's a little bit more nuanced than to get into detail right now. So you pick those cards, you apply for them on the same day. But the key is you got to hit the minimum spend. So you don't want to overextend yourself and get more minimum spend liability than is your regular spending. But the fastest way is through sign-up bonuses. So the easiest calculation to do is chart out how much money a month you can spend on a credit card, multiply that by 3, and then you can get sign-up bonuses up to that amount, and you'll be covered because you get a 3-month window for all the main credit cards right now.
Okay, so there's 3 main components to travel hacking, right? There's the signing up for the cards and picking the right cards. Then there's meeting the minimum spending requirement, and then there's actually booking the tickets.
Booking the tickets, yeah.
Okay, so you've given us an example of a credit card you can sign up for, and there's all these different websites that we'll link to that people can go check out for other offers they might look into. And then how would we meet the minimum spending requirement?
How do you meet it?
Yeah.
Just spending like you would normally spend on that credit card. So to go back to the example of the United Mileage Plus card, the one that earns United miles, you get that card in the mail, and from now on, you do all of your spending on that card. Anytime you can use a credit card and you're going to spend money, use that card. You keep tabs on your balance. You keep tabs on how much money you spent. And then once you get to that $1,000, you can continue to spend on that card and gain miles. But if you do multiple cards, then what you would do is once you hit the minimum spend on the United card, if you apply for another card, then you would move your spending to that. So it's pretty simple. I mean, just log in your credit card account, and when you've hit the minimum spend, you should be given a bonus that's issued to you in the next statement.
Okay, but if I'm signing up for 4 cards at the same time, then I need to be spending $10,000 a month or something, right?
You would be spending $10K a month. I mean, there's a couple of cards right now that have no minimum spends on your first purchase. So that was one of the famous travel hacking wins from a couple of years ago. Eric and I advised our friend Adausa and he got a big win on a card that had no minimum spend. It was your first purchase, and he bought a pack of Tic Tacs, and he went to Brazil.
That's
So
pretty legendary.
cost him 60. I think it was like 65 cents. He bought it on the way to the Newark airport or something, or whatever. He bought a pack of Tic Tacs, and that was his minimum spend. But it really is just simple arithmetic. You just need to look at what the minimum spends are, and then how much you spend. And you can be creative on which cards you pick, but do so with a bit of caution, knowing what those miles you're going to be able. What can you do with those miles? So if you want to go to South America, the really hot mileage currency is American Airlines because they seem to have the most availability and they seem to have the lowest prices and pretty cheap taxes and fees.
Okay, so then let's get into that discussion on redeeming the flight. So, I'm assuming most people watching this video want to go to Brazil. One thing we should also probably clarify at this point too is we're just talking about travel hacking for Americans, right?
Yeah, that is something we should clarify. The big wins are through the American banks, and if you don't have access to them, I can't personally speak, in confidence on helping people outside of the U.S. There are some other services, and we can link to these. Canadians, I hear from a lot of Canadians. I can't really help them, but there's a guy Matt who's doing stuff with Canadians, and we can link to his website. Aussies, it's a little bit more difficult. There's some opportunities for folks in the UK, but outside of Canada, the UK, Australia, and the United States, I don't really know of ways that you can do it.
And for the Brazilians who are watching this and who are like having their hearts broken that they can't fly for free, is there a way that they could take advantage of this offer?
To be honest, unless you've got a way to, if you're a dual citizen, sure. If you have access to the American banks, you can make it happen. But otherwise, it's just kind of a tough luck situation. It sucks. I really wish we could help people from other countries. Eric and I hear from people all the time desperately wanting to get into the game, but there's just no clear path right now.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of guys doing some travel hacking stuff in Brazil. Obviously the system is completely different, and it's still really unexplored there. But there are ways, but I don't think it's anything close to what we're talking about here with being able to get 50,000 miles just like that, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since Eric and I are focusing on our business that sells travel hacking packages, where you'll give us money, we'll guarantee you a flight or 2 flights or whatever the package is. We've been focusing entirely on within the U.S. system and the main airlines that Americans can gain for, because there's some serious complexities in redeeming flights, and that's a part of our service. We go full service. We'll get you the miles, and we'll actually book the flight for you, and there can be some serious complexities in redeeming, so we're just kind of heads down focused on battling all of the challenges that come up when using the miles and redeeming flights.
All right, so let's go back to talking about redeeming the flights then. So for people who want to go to Brazil, American Airlines, you mentioned, is they have greater availability. What are some other carriers that can take people to Brazil?
Delta you can do. If you're in Detroit like me, Delta is awesome because they do a direct flight to Sao Paulo. So that's pretty slick. But you've got American, United, U.S. Airways, and Delta are kind of the clear winners as far as being able to get it done. As far as the power rankings go, I would say you would go American Airlines would be number 1. United would be 2 because you can do one-way trips with them. U.S. Airways, and then Delta. And I only say that because Delta's typically costs a little bit more in miles, and Delta miles are a little bit tougher to earn. Whereas American, you kind of get this whipsaw effect. American miles are the easiest to get a lot of, and it takes the least amount of them to get there. So that's why it's really the no-brainer winner.
Okay, yeah, with American, I've been able to go back and forth Brazil a few times with as little as 20,000 miles. That'd
be the steepest discount. That's their ultra saver.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's like I'm gonna go home. I haven't booked my ticket yet. I need to go visit my grandma. Booked the flight tomorrow, and went. So
yeah, that's. I think I spent 20,000 miles heading back from Carnival. I wasn't sure how long I wanted to stay for, so it was a few days before I ended up heading home. I found some availability out of Rio to get me to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then to Detroit.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of travel hacking doesn't really get mentioned as much, is that you can just go. If you have the miles and the flights are available, which in a lot of cases they are, you just go. You just book the flight and go, and then you pay the fees, which could be, in this case, I paid $65 plus, since American Airlines, if you don't give at least 3 weeks notice, then you have to pay like another $75 fee.
It's a closing booking fee, yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up paying, $130, 132.50, something like that for a flight to the U.S. with like 24 hours
Yeah, and
notice.
that's a flight that would probably cost you in that circumstance. I mean, it would be a normal price for that circumstance to be like $1,000 for a one-way ticket.
Yeah, at least, and if we're talking business class, then wow, $3,000-4,000.
Yeah, I mean, business class, first class, I mean, that stuff gets really pricey on long-haul flights.
But you can buy a business class to Brazil with miles for
Sure.
for what, 50,000?
That's the best deal. But yeah, it's doable. There is a bit more complexity to booking because the award space, the amount of seats they essentially have open are less, so it takes a little bit more work to book those, but it's totally possible. I mean, I went to Chile, Argentina, and Brazil, and I booked that flight with in business class. Pretty slick experience for people that haven't flown in business class or first class. It's just so much more comfortable. And I'm not a small guy, so if I'm sitting next to like another like big dude or big lady or anything, and coach, it can be pretty cramped up. So business class or even economy comfort is a huge win for a little bit more leg and shoulder room.
Okay, so when you're saying that there's a lot of complexity involved with booking the flight, like what does it mean? Because like you can just log on and see that the flight and then book it with your miles, right?
Yeah, kind of. So you can, but you're exposing yourself to a lot of risk there. If your mentality is I have miles, I'm going to log onto the website and book my flight, you run the risk of there not being availability. So if you've got American miles and you just log onto the website and things aren't looking good or they don't have the good rates or something, you're kind of stuck. So where the complexity comes in is booking on partner airlines or being creative with booking agents. A quick hack off the top of my head is that if you call American Airlines based in Sao Paulo, they're much more lenient on booking. Like you can really, really push the limit board availability if you're creative with knowing all the partner airlines, knowing with American Miles who you can fly on, knowing with Chase points which airlines you can transfer them to. That's kind of where the complexity comes in.
Okay, so the complexity comes in. There's all these different alliances, right? So like American Airlines is part of the One World Alliance. Okay, so then there's all these other airlines that are also part of the One World Alliance that you can redeem American Airlines miles on any of those.
Sure, yeah. Actually, when I flew business class, it was not on an American Airlines flight. It was on here's a workaround for you. So it was British Airways miles, and I flew on LAN, a South American carrier, in business class. Great experience, but just off the top of your head, you don't look for that. Same thing if you get like Chase points; those are transferable. I mean, when I see a Chase point, I see a bunch of different opportunities, and some people think you have to book through like the Chase website, and it's really just a crappy deal. But I mean, the big winner on Chase is transferring those points to United. Amex points transferred all different places. So just understanding kind of the network and how much a mile is worth and where it can go and which airlines you can use. The more complexity is flying into places like Europe. There's fuel surcharges that can be really expensive, man. You can use miles and still spend $500 on a flight if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
So there's some tricky stuff like I know even little things like connecting into London Heathrow, you're going to pay an airport tax. Certain airlines flying from the United States to Europe have fuel surcharges that you have to pay. That'll be like a few $100. Certain airlines don't. So there's those ones too. Understanding the end game is to save money on travel, and if you're paying bloated taxes and fees and stuff, you're not getting the value. So understanding on how to get where you want to go and eliminate the taxes and fees as much as possible. And then if you run into availability issues, knowing who else you can fly with those same miles.
Okay, so there's a lot of complexity then if you're going all over the world, but if you're going just to Brazil, then you maybe want to research all the different carriers that fly to Brazil and figure out you going onto their websites and figuring out which number to call and all this extra stuff, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit more complexity in Europe than Brazil because of the fuel surcharges, but there's still issues in Brazil where if you just log onto the website and you don't see availability, I mean it's a what do I do situation. You feel for the beginning travel hacker, you're kind of at the mercy of just the stark availability on right on the website, but there's, like I said, different workarounds, different airlines you can fly on with those same miles. Um, but I mean, it can be done. I mean, I'm not saying that people can't just go and do it. They can. That's how Eric and I learned. But the warning is it's a little bit backloaded. Redeeming flights is tougher than you think, and I think earning miles is a little bit easier than you think.
Okay, so why don't you blow my mind right now? Tell me about some trip that you've done with travel hacking, or maybe one that Eric has done that is just completely ridiculous. Like you did all these different layovers and stuff and business
Yeah.
class. Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing too when you're talking about redeeming, taking advantage of each airline or each alliance's rules. Whether that's a stopover that's essentially a free stay, or an open jaw. There's a couple that come to mind. Eric recently booked a flight in first class to where was he going? He was going from, I think it was to Europe and then Asia. He saved like $12,000 on this flight. If he would have paid for the flight, it would have been like $14,000. He ended up spending like $500 in taxes and fees. Huge
Wow.
win. Last year, a really huge win I did was with only 65,000 United miles and like $170 in fees. I went Detroit to Frankfurt, Germany, to Munich, Germany. Did a stopover there. Saw Prague, saw Berlin. Came back to Munich, spent time with my family. Then went Munich to Bangkok. Had a blast in Bangkok. Had a conference and stuff. And then I wanted to go to Saigon, so I did what's an open job, which means you fly home from a different city. So then I bought like a $60 flight from Bangkok to Saigon, and then I open jawed home to San Francisco where I had a conference with a client, and then I went back to Detroit. So to regroup that for 65,000 miles, I went Detroit to Frankfurt to Munich, dinked around in Central Europe, Bangkok, bought a cheap flight to Saigon, had a blast in Saigon, went to San Francisco for the Dreamforce conference, the big Salesforce.com conference, and then went home to Detroit. And it was like, in total, with the flight I booked from Bangkok to Saigon, it was like maybe $270 or so.
So you literally flew just about 65,000 miles. Yeah.
I did an around the world trip. Literally, I went all the way around the globe.
Right. Okay. That's really really cool. Was that business class as well?
That actually was not. No, that was in economy.
But still, that's like you save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And
Yep. No, and I was at a point there too where I was really trying to save money, so the extra taxes and fees and the extra miles that I could use elsewhere weren't worth it at the time. But the key there, talking about the complexity, is of booking that flight. Had I tried to book that flight when I started travel hacking, I would have had absolutely no shot because I wouldn't have known I could take advantage of that stopover in Europe. I wouldn't have known I could take that open jaw home from Saigon, and I didn't know that I could coerce a booking agent to essentially give me another stopover in San Francisco on my way home for the conference, and then ultimately get to Detroit.
well, coerce might not be the right word because their systems are built in this certain way, right? And their computer responds to certain commands. So I mean, a lot of times the agents don't know what can be done. So I think, or Eric mentioned one time you called them up and they learned something from you in the process of booking your flight.
Sure. Yeah. The agents are humans, and they're booking flights all around the world, so they can't know everything off the top of their head unless they're a genius. And in all honesty, there's probably not. I mean, it's probably a great job, but if you're a high-level genius that can memorize every city in the world, you're probably not a booking agent. You're probably doing something else. So yeah, I mean, we've taken advantage of just calling them and trying to see what they can do for us. Other things are like where you can route through. So let's say you're flying to Turkey, and common sense would tell you that you could stop in Europe on the way to Turkey, but you can sometimes convince a booking agent to take you, like past Turkey and then to Turkey and then open jaw from even further east, if that makes any sense.
Uh, I think you might have lost some people at this
So
point.
it's essentially you can bend the rules on where you stop over. Typically, a stopover should be on the way to the destination, but sometimes you can get the booking agents to do kind of things that aren't really practical for the airline, but they work really well for you. So
Okay, all right. This is starting to get really complex.
but this is getting into like the real nuance of redemption.
Yeah, but so I mean, you've been doing this for a couple of years. You've booked some really incredible flights, and now you're starting to help other people do this. Like you've already mentioned a little bit about the service that you're offering. Why don't you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool service. So it's a unique service. We're the only people that do what we do, and that's why Eric and I started, as we saw an opportunity. So there's services out there where you can kind of learn how to travel hack, or they'll teach you how to gain some miles, and then there's other people that say, hey, you already have miles. I'll book your flight. I'm really good at booking your flight. And we decided to put those all under one company and go the full service route travel hacking. So how it works right now, we've got two plans. We've got a fly economy plan, and we've got a fly business plan. And it's self-explanatory. It's actually business or first. So the economy plan means we're going to guarantee you flights in economy. The business or first means we guarantee you at least business class, if not first flights. And so people pay a fixed rate for 2 flights international, and then we give them all the instruction and all the guidance on signing up for the right credit cards. We do all the tracking of all the details. So for the customer, it just looks like signing up for the service, filling out a form of where you want to go, when you want to go, and a couple other details just for internal issues. And then when the time comes, we actually book the flight. So we help them not only earn the miles, but we're the ones on the phone with the agent searching online for the loopholes, actually using their miles, because that's a huge pain point for people that either have a bunch of miles or have recently accumulated a bunch of miles. So our service is just full service travel hack.
Okay, that's a really cool service. And actually, I'm really pleased to announce this as well that AJ and I have been discussing back and forth about offering a service specifically for people who want to go to Brazil. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that service?
Yeah, so the plan that Josh and I created is really cool because I think it really simplifies things. So what we're doing is we're guaranteeing a round trip to Brazil with miles, taxes included at a fixed price. So you don't have to be at the mercy of taxes and fees. You don't have to be at the mercy of availability. We figured we'd just cut out a lot of the steps for the end user. So for $397, you can literally buy a round trip to Brazil, and the flights are typically $1,000 up to $1,500 at bad times. So we created the service, this offering where if you want to go to Brazil, all you have to do is just buy your slot for $397. Tell us when you want to go and where you want to go, and then we literally do the rest other than just giving you a couple of recommendations on credit cards. Everything else we handle for you, and you're also protected from taxes and fees, which can get hefty if you don't book right. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about making sure you're getting enough miles of the right miles. If you go with us, I mean, this is what we do for a living, so we thought it'd be really cool to offer this particular flight for Brazilian gringo readers because they obviously have an infatuation with Brazil.
Yeah, this is a really cool offer because it simplifies all of the stuff that you're talking about with calling in the agents and saying the right thing and knowing which partner airlines fly in. You basically just sign up, pay the fee, and you're going to tell people which cards to sign up for. You're going to tell them, guide them through the process of meeting the spending requirements, and you're even going to go in and book it for them, right?
Yeah, book the flight for them. Yeah, they just got to tell us when we're. Another thing too I didn't mention is I know Josh personally. My business partner Eric I've known forever, and we're all in agreement that we don't like really doing business that isn't a proper good deal and guaranteed. So I want to personally put a 100% guarantee on this. If you sign up and you don't get your flight to Brazil, you get all of your money back, no questions asked. I feel that's only fair because it's kind of a nuanced, kind of odd seeming thing, and I understand there's some hesitation there. So to kind of ease that and get people these ridiculously good flights, 100% guaranteed, no questions asked. I mean, we do this for a living, so we're pretty confident.
Cool, man. This is a really, really cool offer, and if people want to take advantage of it. We're only opening this up to a limited amount of people right now because this is still like an experimental offer that we're doing for Brazil, right? So,
yeah, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. So we've got it capped at an internal number. So that's why, because we want to crush it for everybody. We don't want to take on more people than we can serve.
okay, and for the Brazilians who are watching this or people who've never heard of the term "crush it," what does that mean?
Means exceed expectations. Do a very good job. Go completely above board. Crushing it would be in business synonymous with domination. Do you have a better definition, man?
No,
Just
that's
do a phenomenal job.
you did a pretty good job explaining that. The English teacher and me, just always making sure that everyone understands what's going on in the conversation. So cool, yeah. If people have any more questions, with the offer, there's going to be a link, somewhere around here.
Yeah.
That
One more thing I want to add, if you don't mind. For anyone that's watching this and they're intrigued with the idea, but they aren't sure if they want to go to Brazil, say you want to go to Spain, say you want to go to Thailand, say you want to go to Australia, you can click the link to the general, a broader service below that Eric and I are doing, and we'll get you set up there. Also, man, we welcome all questions. We're happy to get on the phone with people and talk, email. I mean, we don't want to rush anybody. If people have any questions, man, more than happy to explain and ultimately see if it's a good fit, see if it makes sense for them.
cool, and also you guys got the really cool podcast at thebroaders.com.
Yeah, there's a lot of great free information. That's something that my business partner Eric and I have done. We pretty much podcast exclusively about travel hacking. We usually toss in some travel information, some anecdotal stuff, some stuff that we think travelers would find helpful, but every single episode has bits on travel hacking, different tips and different news.
Yeah, and we did an episode a while back. I said some crazy things. Yeah, but that was fun. So it's a really cool podcast. You guys have a lot of really great information. And yeah, if you guys are still watching this and you haven't if you're still watching this, you probably are really hooked on the idea of travel hacking. So just go click on check out their website, go check out the offer, give them a call, send them an email, and yeah, cool. So yeah, that's about it for us here right now. Thank you all for watching, and I hope that you can take advantage of some of these flights.
Man, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, AJ, definitely. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and sharing all this information. This was really, 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 really cool.
Awesome, man. Thanks again.
Cheers.